10 years ago, I, 37 female, got married to Rob, 40 male, and we were married for 5 years before he ruined my life by cheating on me with my childhood friend and business partner Melissa, 36 female. He served me with divorce papers abruptly and out of the blue one day, told me about his affair and turned my world upside down in one go. Not only that, but with the divorce, I lost everything because of their lies. He took over the business I'd built from scratch with my best friend, and neither of them looked back even once to check if I was all right. He took the house, the car, and my business and left me with no money. I was devastated that Melissa and Rob, the two most special people in my life, had ruined my life in the worst possible way. I was depressed for almost a year and thought about ending things several times, but never worked up the courage to actually go through with it. And today I'm thankful for that. My parents took me back in and helped me to get back on my feet. They pushed me to go to therapy, talk about my feelings, and fight my depression so that I'd bounce back. And I did it. It's been 5 years since my divorce, and I'm as happy as can be now. But that doesn't mean that I've forgotten what they did to me. I haven't forgotten, and I most certainly haven't forgiven. I'd blocked them everywhere after my divorce, but I'd still kept tabs on their lives and what they'd been up to. 2 years after our divorce, they got married to each other and now even have a 3-year-old son. I wish I could say that I'm happy for them, but I'm not. This was the life that I was supposed to have, but they stole it from me. Even the business that my husband stole from me is doing well, and I could never bring myself to forget about any of it. For 5 years, I've kept track of their lives and kept planning to bring them down and put them in the same position that they had put me in all those years ago. I'd continued to work, but at the same time I'd kept planning to bring them down somehow. And a few months ago, I finally put my plan into action. For the past 5 years, I'd been studying my old business and making a list of all their new business associates and investors. They'd grown a lot more since my divorce and were doing exceptionally well using my research. I'd waited long enough, and now I thought it was finally time to do what I'd intended to for so long. For some context, my friend Pam, 50 female, who's a long-standing stalwart of the industry, also plays a huge role here. When I first started working after my divorce, and Pam was my first boss and mentor, she noticed that I was struggling and did her best to help me out during that time and has stuck by me ever since. Recently, she quit her job and started her own business and asked me to be her partner, and I agreed readily. I also realized that now it was finally time to get back at my old friends. Pam and I approached all of Rob and Melissa's business associates and investors, and of course everyone was super excited to work with Pam due to her reputation, but we only had one condition. Nobody could continue their dealings with Melissa's business if they wanted to work with us. We weren't forcing anyone to stop working with them, but since it was a rival business anyway, and most importantly I hated their guts, it was fair game. And most of their associates decided to work with us instead, so naturally they started losing clients and investors left and right. Along with the position of a partner, I'd also received a huge raise, and I was living a very comfortable life anyway, so I could afford to splurge on a phenomenal celebration of my revenge. So I threw a party and invited my ex-husband and my ex-business partner. All their investors and their business associates who were now working with us, but some had still remained loyal to Rob and Mel. There were a lot of people, so I pulled out all the stops and made sure that I used a different name. I used Pam's name on the invitations but left mine out. That ensured that Rob and Melissa would definitely show up. And not just people who were involved in the business, but all my old friends who'd believed my ex-husband's lies and had abandoned me were also invited to this huge party. Luckily, most of us worked in the same field, so it wouldn't be too odd for them to be invited to such a party. And even if it was, I know nobody would miss the chance to meet Pam. She'd be there as well, so it wasn't as if I was misleading anyone. Anyway, around 2 weeks ago, the party finally took place, and it went exactly according to plan. Everyone I'd invited had shown up, and so had Rob and Melissa, looking really pleased with themselves. But I knew the smug smiles on their faces would be gone by the end of the evening. They probably thought that this invitation meant that Pam would be willing to strike a deal with them, and they'd recover from the losses that they'd been facing recently, but that was not the case at all. Pam made sure she greeted all the guests and was extra nice to Rob and Melissa just for the fun of it. I didn't have any intention of greeting any of them until all of them had a few drinks in them. Around 2 hours later, when the party was in full swing, I finally decided to make an appearance. I'd worn the dress I'd worn at my wedding after party, a classy black number, and jewelry that Melissa had gifted me. I wanted to ensure that they recognized me as soon as I entered the room, which they did. People did turn, but nobody seemed as shocked as Rob and Melissa. Their jaws almost hit the floor, and man, it was priceless. I walked right over to where they were standing and started talking to them really casually while they struggled and fumbled with words. After a bit of small talk, where I was the one who did most of the talking, I took center stage at the party and decided to make the killer speech that I'd been practicing for days. It was finally time. All eyes were on me, and I was going to end Rob and Melissa's career just like they'd done to me. In my speech, I narrated the story of how Rob had cheated on me with my best friend Melissa, and had wrongfully stolen the business that the both of us had worked so hard to build right from under my nose, while I couldn't do anything except sit and watch while they destroyed my life without even a hint of remorse. I didn't even say their names, but most people in the room knew who I was talking about. I knew that none of the people present there had any idea about this, and could see that most of them were really uncomfortable with whatever was being said. But then I started talking about Pam, and people began to ease up a little and even clap for us when we thanked them for attending. Most of them went back to partying and socializing, but my old friends left out of embarrassment. After my speech, I walked back to Rob and Melissa with the sweetest smile on my face, with Pam beside me, and asked them how they'd liked the party we'd thrown, especially in their honor. Melissa looked like she was going to throw her drink in my face, or at least scream at me. But Rob had the good sense to drag her away that day, and we ended the evening on a good note. By we, I mean Pam and I, because it was definitely not the best evening for Rob or Melissa. They probably realized that they were done for, because they didn't stand a chance against Pam. She's a lot more influential than them, and if it comes down to it, all of their business associates and investors are going to pick her over them. And since she's working with me, they're never going to be able to work with her either. So they're basically screwed, and honestly, I've never, ever been happier. This is what they deserve, at least in my opinion. Since then, Rob has tried his very best to speak to me and has sent me several emails, but I haven't read a single one of them. I'm too busy working, and now that I've gotten back at them for what they did, I hardly care what becomes of them. I told my parents about all of this a few days back, but they didn't have the reaction that I'd expected. I'd thought they'd be happy for me, but instead, they seemed really disappointed. They told me that I should have just stuck to working and shouldn't have sought to go after my ex just for revenge. They believed that I should have been the bigger person and let this go, since it had been 5 years after all. I got into a bit of an argument with them over it, but couldn't change their mind. And now I don't know what to think. Maybe I had been too petty, but I think they deserve what I'd done. They had to face the consequences of their actions someday, and now that I'm finally in a position to punish them and make them feel awful, why shouldn't I retaliate? I'd waited 5 long years for this, and I hate the fact that they're taking this away from me by making me feel like the bad guy. Let's not forget that they literally ruined my life with their lies and left me penniless after the divorce. They took away everything from me. I don't think I'm the bad guy here in the least, so AITA for screwing over my ex-husband and ex-business partner now? Update 1. Okay, I'd just like to thank you guys for being so exceptionally kind to me. I truly hadn't expected such an overwhelming response here, but I'm thankful from the bottom of my heart for all the kind messages. I also felt like I had to clarify for those of you who are accusing me of befriending Pam for clout. That's not the case at all. I genuinely love and respect Pam, and we became friends quite organically. She'd met me at a really dark time in my life, and I will always be grateful for that. I did not make her my friend to move up the ladder or get revenge eventually. When I met her, I was so depressed that my career or revenge were the last things on my mind. She brought me out of it, helped me find a therapist, and mentored me, and I'll always be thankful for that. She'd always known about the reason behind my divorce and had been in on my plan all along the way. In fact, she'd helped me willingly and happily, so I didn't use her. We really are friends and always will be. If she hadn't been my friend, I might not have been able to get the revenge I wanted. But I would have found some other way. She just helped me along the way, and I'm grateful that she did. So I hope I've made that clear to everyone saying that they feel bad for Pam. Update 2. Hey guys, it's been 2 weeks since I came here, and I honestly didn't expect my post to gain so much traction. So thanks for that. Anyway, I'm here to share what happened a few days back. As I'd said, most of their associates had started working with us, so they were in a bad position business-wise. Rob had sent me a bunch of emails, but I hadn't responded or even read any of them. I was too busy anyway, and I wasn't really interested in anything that he had to say to me at this point. Nothing that they said or did would make me forgive them, so why even bother? When I didn't respond, they decided to show up at our office to harass us instead. Pam had taken a sick day, so she wasn't in, so I had to talk to them on my own, and it was honestly so exhausting. I could have had them thrown out, but I didn't want to cause a scene in front of my employees who'd just been hired, so I decided to talk to them, but quite unwillingly. They didn't waste much time and told me that they knew exactly what Pam and I had been telling everyone else, that we wouldn't work with them if they continued to deal with Rob and Melissa. They said that they were facing heavy losses because of us and had lost a lot of business due to our condition, and wanted us to stop so that they wouldn't be forced to take any legal action against us. I almost laughed out loud when they said that, because they were threatening to sue me for defamation, but I knew for a fact that they were bluffing then. If they decided to take us to court, it would be very likely to backfire on them. I'd be forced to open the can of worms back from when I got divorced. They knew very well that they'd snatched the business I'd built unfairly and had lied their way into taking control. If I'd had the resources I do now, then I wouldn't have lost my business to them in the first place. But now I don't want it back either. And neither do I want them back in my life in any capacity. I told them that suing me would spell trouble for them as well. And while it's a free country and they can do whatever they want to, they should also be prepared for the consequences. I wasn't trying to pick a fight with them, so I kept my cool and spoke to them as politely as I could. They knew what I was referring to and realized that threatening me with a lawsuit wasn't going to faze me, so they switched tactics almost instantly and tried to blackmail me. Yeah, that's right. They had the audacity to do that to me while sitting in my office. They told me that they could very well spread the same lies and rumors that they'd done the first time, and this time I have even more to lose than I did before. For a second, I couldn't believe that they had the guts to say that to my face, so I stared at them in disbelief. I was furious and was really close to kicking them out myself, but chose to deal with it in a civilized way. and said that they had 3 minutes to clear out or else I'd call security. They obliged and walked out, but warned me yet again that they wouldn't shy away from using the same tactics to ruin my career that they'd used the first time around, and then they told me that I had a week to think about it and let them know what I wanted to do. I could either choose to be their friend or be their enemy and suffer the consequences. Their words, not mine. It's been a couple of days since then and I heard from them. I know it's not over yet though. It's just that I absolutely cannot believe their audacity. Ruining my life once wasn't enough. They're back again to put me through it all over again. But this time, it won't be that easy. I have a stronger support system now, and not to mention a crap load of money that I didn't have back then. The evidence was stacked against me back then since they had everyone on their side, but that's not the case anymore. I'm the big fish in the pond now, so they're the ones who need to watch their backs. I haven't told Pam about this yet since she's really sick and I don't want her to worry about this as well, but I have been in talks with our lawyer. He doesn't think that I have anything to worry about and believes that going up against us is inevitably going to end badly for them, so that's some consolation. If they try to talk to me again, then I'll definitely have them thrown out, which is what I should have done the first time around as well. I'm kicking myself for not having them escorted out when they first came to meet me, but oh well. I can't change the past, and I also wanted to appear calm and professional in front of our new employees, so I think what I did was the best move in a situation like that. But I should have known that Rob and Melissa would do everything in their power to keep their business afloat. After all, they'd worked really hard to steal it from me. Ugh. I know I have nothing to worry about, but I'm just so mad that they're even trying to mess with me right now. That party should have been the last lesson that they needed to be taught, but I guess that wasn't enough for them. I just hate their guts and wish nothing but the worst for them, honestly. I won't be the bigger person and I'm not sorry. Update 3. I told Pam about everything that's happened regarding Rob and Melissa today. Tomorrow will mark a week since I met them last, and the time that they'd given me to come to a conclusion would end. I'm not really scared of whatever they're planning to pull, since Pam has told me that if they try anything funny at all, we're going to file a lawsuit against them. The only reason we're even avoiding it right now is because it's just too much hassle. Our business has just been established and we truly don't have the time or energy to waste on irrelevant people like Rob and Melissa. So I'm going to wait until tomorrow, and if they try to take things further, then we'll screw them over legally. Other than that, I also spoke to my parents today. We hadn't talked much since the last argument we had where they told me that what I'd done was not okay. We'd been a little distant since then. I mean, we were all still talking to one another, but the energy was all off and I felt awful about it. They told me that they were in town last evening, so I decided to go meet them. I did have a ton of work to catch up on, but I kept it all aside so that I could spend some much needed time with them. I wanted to clear the air between us since my parents mean the world to me and I hated fighting with them, especially because of Rob and Melissa. I don't want to fight with my parents over them. So I went out with them for dinner and drinks, and we had a long chat about why I did what I did. I explained my side of the story to them and told them that my divorce had absolutely destroyed me emotionally, and they'd witnessed it firsthand, so they were the last people who should have been telling me that I overreacted, which is why the argument got so heated in the first place. They told me that they understood where I was coming from and even apologized for making me feel like I'd been in the wrong. They explained that they just wanted me to be able to move on with my life and make the most of it, so they didn't like the fact that I'd invited them back into my life because it just meant inviting more trouble. They didn't think revenge was ever worth it, and I guess they were right. It felt good for a few days, but then that happiness and thrill of revenge wore off, and now I don't feel like it was necessary because I have to deal with them again. So I totally understood what my parents meant. But then the world would be a really boring place if humans always acted logically. But anyway, I sorted things out with my parents and we ended up having a lot of fun yesterday. It was totally worth it and I feel considerably better and more confident about myself now. I'm hoping that Rob and Melissa do what's best for them and leave me the hell alone, because I've honestly been having a great run at work and in my personal life and I don't want them ruining my streak of good days. But I will count it as a good day if the opportunity to kick them out of my office and humiliate them presents itself, and I really hope that it does. Update 4. Hey there. It's been a while, but I've also been really busy. Life's been nothing but chaotic lately, but it's the good kind of chaos. For the most part, our business is doing really well and we couldn't be happier about it. Pam and I have put our heart and soul into this, so it's like watching your baby do well in life, and we're really proud of what we've managed to accomplish and how far we've come. I don't mean to brag, but I'm especially proud of myself and thankful to myself for never giving up, not even at my lowest. If I had, maybe I wouldn't be here to witness my own success. And I'm also really grateful for my parents and, of course, Pam. They're all the support I need. We've also decided to file a lawsuit against Rob and Melissa to take back the business that they'd stolen from me. They had tried spreading lies about me once more, but luckily this time I was the one in power. And even my parents now believe that I should take back what rightfully belongs to me. When they were served, Melissa came to my office crying and screaming about how I couldn't do this to her. She knew that she didn't stand a chance anymore. They'd only won the last time because I was powerless. But she should have known that the truth would come out someday. She tried to emotionally manipulate me by reminding me that she'd been an equally important part of that business when we'd first started, but it didn't make a difference to me. Yes, I'd had really good memories of working with Melissa, but all of them meant nothing, since the only memory that stood out now was of her taking away my life's work from me with my husband. They left me broken and didn't look back, so now I don't owe them anything either. I had security drag her out, and we haven't spoken ever since then. I have the truth on my side, so I'm not too worried about what's going to happen now. I just hope that things continue to go well for me as they have been so far. People have been exceptionally kind to me, and I really am thankful for that. This has made me realize that I have more supporters than I could ever imagine, and I'm truly grateful. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.